Hey everybody, and welcome to Train Signal. We're going to talk about some basic database objects. Now we're going to be working with a fresh install of SQL Server, so absolutely nothing has been done since we installed. We haven't even opened up Management Studio yet. And to do this, we're going to start by creating a database. Of course, when you install SQL Server, it creates the system databases that come with the product, but that's all you get. So let's go ahead and start creating a database, and I'll show you how to add a little data as well. Okay, here we are inside our VM. We just finished installing SQL Server, so it's nice and fresh. We go to Start, All Programs, you go to SQL Server 2012, and you go to Management Studio. There we are, and it's going to come up with the box that we want to connect to. Now this is the default instance. Again, the default instance is just what it sounds like. It's the one you connect to by default, and that's typically just the machine name. However, if you did have a named instance, you would separate it, the machine name with a backslash, and then you would just give the instance name instance 1 or instance 2 or whatever you called it. But for now, we've got a single local instance. Let's go ahead and connect. There we go. We come up here, you can see a list of databases. We have the 2 report server databases. Those were from our SSRS installation. And we've got some system databases. We're not going to talk about those right now. What we are going to talk about, though, is how to create a user database. Now, the absolute easiest way to do that, let's bring up a new query. There you go. Give myself a couple lines of space here. I just like that. So the absolute easiest way to create a database is to simply type in the create database statement. I'll say food because I like food. And remember, if we don't specify anything else, if I specify no files, no file properties, no anything, it's going to use the default database file properties that we specified during setup. So you remember there was that screen when you set up SQL Server that allowed you to type in all of the file locations, to specify all of those. And one of them was for user data files, and the other one was for user log files. So those were just the default file locations if you don't type in any files in your create database statement. But you can still create a database anywhere you like. So we'll go ahead and hit F5 and run it. There we go. And now we have, if I highlight this and refresh the list, now I have a food database. Now my food database is empty. I have no tables. I mean, I have system tables, but I have no user tables, no SPs, no triggers, nothing, right? So now that I've shown you how to create the simplest create database statement, let's step back now, and I'm going to teach you how to create one with file properties, which is going to be much more useful to you. Let's go ahead and drop this guy. And it's not case sensitive. I'm doing the case sensitivity for you guys to make it easier to read. There we go. And I'll go ahead and get rid of both of those. Do that. Okay, so we start off with the same create database statement. Create database food. Let's do parentheses. And now you just start with name. I'm going to explain this in just a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and start here. We have a name and a file name. So the way this works out is the name on there. There we go. Now, the next one, size. I'm going to create mine at 10 megs. Put another comma. Now, size, the next three parameters are all about size and growth. So what we're saying here is I want the initial size to be 10 megs. I could also specify it in K. I could specify it in gigs, or I could specify it in terabytes. Here, let me go ahead and put those up. Here are your options. There you go. And these are going to be the same options you have for every one of the size parameters that I'm about to give you. So we have size. That's the initial size we want the file to be. Max size. Oh, what do I want that to be? In this case, we'll say 1 gig. There we go. And for the file growth, I'm going to say unlimited. There we go. So I'm going to have an unlimited file growth. Quite often, you'll choose to limit the file growth, because if you've got a database file that's on the same drive with a bunch of other database files, you don't want one of them to get too big and rob the others of their space. So you kind of need to manage the space in that way. And it also helps you, it can also help you manage the file system level fragmentation as well. So there you go. That's the data file. Now let's take care of the log file. We just say log on. Now I'm just going to copy all of this stuff here because that's just easiest. Invalidated. Oh, I see what happened. Okay, yeah, see, I love it when stuff like this happens. Okay, I transposed these two in my head. So let me kill that and bring that up there, and let's bring 1 gig. Oops. Let's bring 1 gig down here. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And let's do the same thing here. So I'll bring that up here and take that and put it right down there. Okay, so you can just see I just accidentally transposed those in my head, and that's unlimited. There we go. That's going to be a... So max size is unlimited. I want it to be able to grow as large as it wants, and I want it to grow in increments of 1 gig. And the same thing with the log file. I want it to be able to grow as big as it can, but only in increments of 1 gig. There you go. Sorry about that. I just transposed those real quick. Now, if I hit F5, and we got our creation. There we go. Come over here. We got our food data. We've got our empty food database back. And that's how to create a database. So let's think about what we would want in a snack table. And this is going to be a very simple table. This isn't even going to be close to something that you would put in production. But I just want to show you how the table creation process works and introduce you to data types at the same time. So okay, let's start with a name, and we'll call this one snack name. And then let's have how much we ate. So we'll give it an amount. And we'll give it in ounces, so because we also want the unit of measure, right? And let's go ahead and track how many calories it has. There we go. So this is a really good time to go ahead and talk about data types. Now, data is not the same. Every single piece of data that you're going to put in your database is not the same. If you have somebody's name, you're possibly going to store that differently than you would store their salary, or that you would store their zip code, or maybe even their phone number. There are different types of data, right? All data is not equal. And so what we need to do now with each one of these columns is define the type of data that we want to have in every single column. Now I'm going to introduce you to two of the most common data types. I'm just going to come down here, and these are varchar, and I'll go above, and char. That stands for character and then variable character. So what character does is character stores alphanumeric data, just generic alphanumeric data that you just want to store as text, as literal And here I'm just I'm defining the parameters of the trigger. This is the main code block right here of what I want to actually do. So what we're doing here, let me explain the business problem. The business problem is this. We're inserting snacks into our snack table, and some of the snacks have fewer than 10 calories. Well, we've decided in our business rules that anything fewer than 10 calories may as well be tracked as 10 calories because we're not going to be that picky. We're not going to track something that's only got 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 calories. There's just no point. So we've said that 10 calories is the lowest number that we want to track. So if we eat something, even if it's only got 2 calories in it, we're going to mark it as 10 calories. Just because that's the unit of measure that we've decided on. So I'm going to define my calories variable. I'm going to set that calories variable equal to the calories from inserted. There's a hidden table. There are 2 hidden tables. When you insert and delete data in SQL, the tables are inserted and deleted, and they go into these special tables so that you can get to them via triggers and you can work with them. So what I'm saying here is set my variable calories equal to So let's call it something else. Let's call it chocolate covered almonds. There we go. Almonds only have 2 calories, right? Oh, we have to create the SP first. There we go. And let's not forget we have to disable the trigger. So I'm going to come to the table here. I see triggers. There we go, because if I don't disable the trigger, then it'll use the trigger too. And I'm going to say disable. There we go. Now we're not going to use the trigger at all. You notice we got that little red arrow down there. So now when I call SP calorie fix and pass it those 3 parameters, I've got that. And let's see what we have in our snack table. There we go. So I've got chocolate covered almonds now with only 10 calories. And let's do one more. Let's do chocolate cherries. And we'll say that they have 1 calorie. Cherries only have 1 calorie, right? There we go. I called that. And now you can see that even chocolate cherries only have 10 calories. So we've gotten around this. We've gotten around it with a lot less I/O than we had for our trigger, and we're also not going to incur the concurrency problems that we have by having that row block while it does all of that extra I/O, which is no big deal here on my VM, but when I've got 900 or 9,000 users hitting my database, that kind of stuff really matters. Synonyms are a great way to obscure tables from your users, and they're so underused. I just don't know why people don't use them any more than they use them, but they're an excellent way to get around some pretty decent business problems and really save you a little bit of coding. Come on, I'll show you what I mean. A friendly name on an object. Now you can do this to obscure real object names from users. If you don't want them to know that what the exact table name is, you could use a synonym instead and publish the synonym as the table name. Or you could just use it in a simple case here where you've got an object in another database and you just want to save your users of the trouble of having to type in that database name. Or maybe you just don't want them to know which database that object is in. But a more common use for this, when it is used, is it gets around a really decent problem. And that problem is archive tables. A lot of times you'll see companies that will create an archive table where the table is just too big to move all at once. So what they'll do is they'll rename the table to yesterday's date, right? You see here I would have rename table snack to snack yesterday's date. And this is pseudo code. This isn't real code. It wouldn't actually run. No, but I just want to get the concept through to you. So I would rename today's table with yesterday's date. So I have a frozen snapshot of yesterday's data. And then I would recreate the snack table for today and load it with today's data. That kind of thing is fairly common in data warehousing. But what's also common is going back and needing to query yesterday's data. And so what commonly ends up happening is you end up with a table, you end up with a query that well, anyway, that's the basics of what synonyms are used for, how you can use them. Go ahead, get creative because it's one of my favorite features. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.